Episode 95 of Lights Thunder Action is here, and we're going to be diving into Sicario, a fun review of a very fun movie that nothing bad happens to anyone in ever. And of course, we'll be diving into all the nerd news in What the News. We will see you after the monkeys play the music. Ooh! Welcome to
LTA with
TCR
and JRB.
This is where the fun begins.
You're just not thinking fourth dimensional.
Lois! Peter 3!
Num num.
I'm vengeance.
What?
Did we just become best friends?
Yup! I love you guys.
Hold on to your butts.
If we find out you have personalized license plates, you die.
Dude, I almost had you.
To that I say, all right.
Good evening. It is August 1st, 2022, and it is time for your Monday night pick-me-up where two Thunder buddies dive into all things Marvel, DC, pop culture, IP, and the latest happenings in the film industry.
On tonight's show, Thomas and I are going to be kicking things off by doing a mini review of one of my favorite films, Sicario, and then we're going right back to the familiar folds of all of our favorite franchises, including MCU, Star Wars, and Tomb Raider. But before we get to all of that, Thomas, where can everybody join us on all of the different platforms?
We are live beaming directly into your homes and phones via our LightsThunderAction Facebook and the HWWS WebTV on Twitter and YouTube. All of those links can be found at Linktr.com/LightsThunderAction. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow to view the live version of our show, where you can interact with us. But if you don't want to see our beautiful bearded faces, but love hearing our beautiful bearded voices,
then you can find our beautiful voices on Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, and Spotify. Please follow and subscribe on those platforms while you're there, and leave us a review. I think that might be the second or third time I've called it a review. But if you could make that review 5 stars and ask us a question, we will bring that review right on this show and answer that question for you. So without further ado, Thomas, review? Are we making that a thing? Oh, he's muted. Yeah, so I'll say
review. Sorry about that. I thought thought the mic was hot. Thought the mic was hot. I was looking, trying to share the stream. Yeah, man.
That's
review.
cool. It's a sign. It's
I
a
like
sign.
review.
We just need to move on from that.
No,
it's
I like review. We should do it. Like every week, we're just doing a new movie review. Speaking of every week, we got to reveal the results of that Twitter poll that we put out. The tiebreaker match of rom-com and drama. I haven't looked at it. So we're going to do this live, kids. And the winner is holy shnikes, 77% rom-com.
Rom-com. Let's go.
So we will
romantic
now
comedy it is.
Now we're gonna how exciting. Now we're gonna have to break down. Maybe we just do a tournament for a couple of days. Pick 4 movies, just pick a genre, or just pick a bunch of them. 4 on 4, just the winners, a little tournament. It'll be great. 16 teams, 16 movies, instantly cut down to 4.
There we go.
Instantly cut down to 2, and then boom. Because we will not have a show next week. We should lead off the jump with that.
Yes, we will have plenty of time to find the results for this because we will be taking a week off.
Yes.
Believe it or not, we're busy guys. Thomas especially, and yeah. So, do you want to go into why we're taking time out, or you just want to?
Yeah, I think it's actually going to be live streamed as well. So I and a few of the podcasting community that we are a part of are going to be hopping on 3 films in a pod. This next Monday, August 8th. Yes, that's correct. And we're going to be discussing and drafting in an auction style draft. It's like the salary cap to me. I'm still confused by it, but it's cool because I'm going to bid everything on Star Wars and see what happens. Always go hard on the Star Wars. No, but we are going to be drafting the best film franchises of all time.
Wow.
So
Lots to pick from.
What constitutes a film franchise is 3 movies or more. So Mortal Kombat technically works.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay.
Tomb Raider, which we'll get to in a little bit, works.
Real question is anyone actually putting Mortal Kombat on their list?
I don't know. It hasn't happened yet.
Fair enough. Yeah, you'll have to tune in for that. It is important enough to keep us from our own show that night, so please be sure to tune in to that show for us that night. But yeah, so next Monday, no show. That'll give us more time to figure out what rom-com we are going to be watching together. I guess this is something we didn't clarify. Is it going to be one we haven't seen before? Or can it be one we've already watched?
Ooh, good query.
Because it might be a little more fun if it's one we haven't seen before.
That's what I'm leaning towards. We should only go with the ones we haven't seen. And it's been like 12 years since I was a big fan of rom-coms. So then I just got lonely and they made me sad. So I think we could watch anything from the last like 10 years and I'd be set.
Cool. I can just feel my fiance foaming at the mouth on the other side of this door, just waiting to give me a dozen suggestions. So, yeah, I think we'll be pretty well set for finding a good selection. But yeah, so rom-com it is, and that's where we'll start. And after the rom-com, we'll decide what our next genre will be, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, actually, if I'm not mistaken, after rom-com, it'd be She-Hulk time.
Yeah. Yeah, She-Hulk is quickly approaching. I feel like, man, speaking of She-Hulk, we are just learning more and more about that show now.
Yeah.
It's really gotten into a position where it's gaining some steam. And I don't want to say it took me by surprise, but like She-Hulk has been kind of this lingering thing for so long, and there was so much uncertainty surrounding the show, and so much was added onto that by the issues with production that was being reported, and then you have the whole CGI complaints, which I personally disagree with. I mean, unless you're staring at screenshots, I think she looks great. But
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, She-Hulk, man, it's almost here.
Yeah, 16 days away. They
Yeah.
just released. I never watched clips. All right. But I feel like this show is going to be so weird that each episode, like it might be this little story is wrapped up in 20 minutes. This little story is wrapped up in 20 minutes. This
Right.
one's not, but don't worry, we'll come back in 3 weeks. I get
Just
a
like her
feeling it
comic
might be
runs.
that. Yeah.
Especially like the Dan Slott run. It was like every comic was like its own little adventure. And I know this is super common, but like Slott's run especially handled her lawyer life so well. And like each issue was like a new case that was brought to her, you know?
Oh.
I'm really hoping that at least a third of the series is just episode by episode, her just being handed new cases and having to figure it out. And we see her intellect take the front seat rather than her brute strength. That would be so cool. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be super wacky. We're going to get some fourth wall breaks, which will be really exciting.
I love those.
Yeah, She-Hulk, almost here.
Almost here. We'll talk a little bit more about She-Hulk later on in the show. But before we dive into Sicario, nice. JRB, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm doing really good. Not much to report. It's been a normal week. But yeah, no, weather's nice. Things are great here, man. How about you?
I took a couple days off, actually. Well, I was supposed to take a couple days off. It turned out to be 1 day off because I'm a workaholic. And it's good, man. Life's good. Life is going. I'm taking it day by day. There's so many different things I could say. I finished.
Are they all cliches?
They're all cliches. What do you want me to say? I'm just gonna hit you with nothing more than the cliches. I actually finished 2 Star Wars books today.
Whoa.
I didn't like start them, but I finished them.
Nice.
I started Padawan on like Thursday or Friday, and it's so good. It's about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Cranked it out. Finished it this morning. Totally didn't cry. And then listened to the end of From a Certain Point of View, which covers A New Hope. And I own the Empire one, but I think Terry McIver sent me that book. And because he lives in the UK, I have to log back into Audible through the UK version,
Nice.
download it, switch back to the US version. It's convoluted, but I'm very excited to get to that because I just rewatched Empire last night. So Star Wars, are we surprised?
Nice. Not really.
I know.
Speaking of audiobooks, though, there's another audiobook you discovered recently.
Oh my God. Yes, it is. I think it's Deeper and Deeper.
Yep.
Like, oh my God. It's Chase Crawford playing the Deep from The Boys, and it is his story. It's like an interview with him and his wife, Cassandra. Spoiler alert,
Cassandra.
she's not there anymore. Yeah.
Now she's got her own book.
Now she's got her own book, From Out of the Deep. And it's basically like it sounds like it's going to be more of a podcast vibe.
It's like it seems like an
podcast interview.
in-universe like tell-all kind of.
Yeah. So
yeah,
gonna be
really
weird.
interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be weird. I'm very excited to listen in on it. And it's Chase Crawford talking, like it's him doing it. And it is the actress that plays Cassandra also voicing her character. So like very fun. Going to be a lot of fun to listen to.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to checking that out. I'm glad you pointed it out. Real quick in the chat, we've got co-founder, longtime producer David Thompson saying, "Hey guys, guess it's Monday because LTA is rocking it live." It is Monday, dude, and I'm so happy about that. It's the start of a new week. It is the start of a new month. Happy August. We made it. We made it another month into this crazy, expensive, anxious 2022, and we are just flying by the seat of our pants, man. But yeah, David, so happy you're here.
Yeah, David, send in the box office results because I didn't see you on Twitter this morning.
Oh,
I also might not have been on Twitter this morning, so that's
Speaking
on me.
Well, I guess this isn't totally box office, but did you see that Thor: Love and Thunder is officially the worst rated Thor movie on Rotten Tomatoes now?
This is why we don't trust critics.
Well, see, that's the thing is like
here's the reason why. They're judging Thor: The Dark World with like lesser movies, right? Now they're judging Thor: Love and Thunder against quite literally the highest rated Thor movie of all time. So it's a weird
That's true.
balance there.
The Dark World didn't have a lot to live up to, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Kenneth Branagh's Thor, the first one, is
Passable.
It's passable. It's a cool movie, but it's not one of my favorites. So it wasn't hard to improve upon that. But once you hit Ragnarok, then people are like, it's got to be better than Ragnarok, you know?
Yeah. And
if it doesn't, even if it levels out with Ragnarok, you're going to say, oh, well, it's just a copy, you know?
And the thing that I think it's gotten a lot of low reviews from fans and critics alike is it doesn't tie into anything. It's like a standalone movie. Oh my God. Phase 4 has no direction. Listen.
I'm so tired of this.
Well, don't worry, because we're not going to go any further than this, because as we know, Phase 4 ends this November with an epilogue coming in December, the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special.
Hey.
Officially confirmed today. Oh, David Thompson coming in. We're going to hop right on into a quick, brief box office. Top 5 domestic box office. Number 1, DC League of Super Pets. JRB, did you see it?
No, but I'm going to now that I see it's made 23 million already.
I was really hoping you'd
say, but
I was really hoping you'd say nope, and I was like, no, that was number 2 this weekend at 18 million. It's cool. Number 3 is Thor 4. Love and Thunder, excuse me. Number 4 is Minions, making $10 million, and number 5, almost 3 months in, it seems like Top Gun 2 making $8 million.
He's still alive.
He's still alive. Thank you to David the Box Office Thompson for sending that in. He also wants to remind everyone it's Spider-Man Day. I'm upset. I'm not wearing any Spider-Man related materials. That's
it's okay.
bummer.
You're wearing a Deadpool shirt, and Deadpool's obsessed with Spidey, so that works.
It fits.
Works. You love him just as much as Deadpool does.
Oh wow. David also says this is the first time Top Gun has made single digits in a weekend.
Oh my gosh, it's been out since May.
May 27th, if I'm not mistaken.
That's insane.
That's insane. I don't have another adjective. It's
oh my gosh, that is
mind-boggling.
At least 9 consecutive weeks with double digits.
Yes.
The fact that oh my god, I know it wasn't exactly a busy weekend for the box office, but it is insane that this movie is still it's still top 5. I mean, the what is its overall earnings at this point? We're gonna have to look into that in a minute.
It's a gajillion.
It's all of the money.
It's all of the muns.
They're just taking a head count of how many Americans have seen it because it is truly one of the most like fun-loving, good-time American flicks I've ever seen. And when I saw it Memorial Day weekend, and I don't think I've ever felt more patriotic than I did walking out of that theater. Weekend 10, David Thompson says. This is its 10th weekend in theaters, and it's the first time it dipped below 10 million, and even still, it still made 8.
Yeah,
that's wild.
It's crazy. It's insane. And Kleinfeld finally went and saw it this past weekend on
Good old
weekend
Canadian
10.
Kleinfeld.
He just had bad scheduling issues trying to get to go to that movie is all it was. But JRB, without further ado, let's dive right on into our main topic, which is Sicario.
Man.
I'm going to jump off with thoughts and feelings since I've never seen this movie.
Let's do it.
Yesterday.
Well, first, okay, let's set the basic premise so everyone is on the same page as us. So Sicario, it's one of my favorite movies. It came out in 2015, I believe. It's Denis Villeneuve who directed. Johan Johansson did the score, which I'm so excited to talk about with you. It stars Benicio del Toro, Emily Blunt, Josh Brolin, just to name a few. But it's written by Taylor Sheridan. The film follows a principled FBI agent, that's Blunt's character, who is enlisted by a government task force to bring down the leader of a powerful and brutal Mexican drug cartel. So essentially, there's an FBI agent who her entire career, she's just been on a kidnap response team where she's basically hostage rescue. Mm-hmm. She's the one who kicks down the door and takes out the bad guys and saves the people that they're holding hostage.
Okay.
The movie opens with Emily Blunt's character raiding a house to try to save these hostages, only to find out that they were far too late. they find over 40 people were dead in this house. And it was also rigged with explosives, so it was a total trap for the FBI. And that kind of sets the tone and the path for Emily Blunt's character, where she then gets pulled into this task force that is trying to take down this cartel that's causing all this to happen. So they end up going from America to Mexico and back and forth. And it's a very deep dive into the corruption of law enforcement on both sides of the border. As well as a very interesting case study on necessary evil and the difference between, you know, good and bad morals and who's willing to kind of look the other way and kind of operate in that gray area. I won't go any further than that until we get into the thick of it. But Thomas, let's open with your off the top thoughts. When the credits started rolling, how did you feel? What did this movie make you think about?
I'm still a little shell-shocked.
Yeah.
The movie, like the ending, the climax with the main character that you didn't realize you were following, but you were following the whole movie.
Right.
When we get to that point, I saw that coming. It's screenwriting 101 type vibes. Like, I'm like, oh, this is where the story is naturally going to go.
Right.
But it ended, and I was just like, so much happened so fast. And for the most of the time, I'm just like, okay. Oh my God. I loved it. I can say I do know that I loved it now, but it's like, I don't feel as bad as when I saw Joker the first time. Right. But I really do.
Yeah, right. I
really do like this movie. The themes that they dive into. I mean, like the CIA of it all. Mm-hmm. It's really well done. It's Denis Villeneuve at his best, which is, I mean, that's a lie. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, that's a lie. I love Denis. I love this movie. I think what he's done since I think
Morbius might have been a little bit better.
Listen.
If this wasn't one of my favorite movies of all time, I wouldn't even make that joke. But it is, because Sicario really is that good. And Denis Villeneuve is like, he deserves credit for like 90% of it. The cinematography in this and the scope and the scale of it all, like the way that he would hang on to that shot of like the scenery for one second longer. There was that scene where they were the special team, or the special forces team, was about to go dark as the sun was setting into this tunnel, and there was this shot of the horizon, and you see all the military guys. They're walking down the hill, and the last head just kind of bobs down below the horizon line, and it just stays on that horizon line, and everything below it is pitch darkness.
Yeah.
And there's so much in this film that's communicated with just the shots he chooses. Some of the violence that's implied in this movie is the most violent stuff I've ever seen, but they don't show it. But the way that they still gut punch you with it, because you can hear so much more than you can see, and that's a constant factor throughout. And the mystery of it all, seeing that so much is still happening, it really brings the message across that so much is happening that you can't see, that you don't know is going on, that where even if you think you're making a difference, you know, all this stuff is still happening that you're not looking at. Man, it's amazing. So let me ask you this then.
Yes.
You said that the by the end of the movie, you felt like you followed the story of who the protagonist is very well.
Yeah.
There's a theme in the movie of almost a parallel between Emily Blunt's Agent Mercer and Benicio del Toro's Alejandro, who is considered the Sicario, the hitman, you know?
Yeah.
He is an ex-lawyer from Mexico. He's an ex-prosecutor, and he's got some serious military, like, tactical skills. So this dude is like unhinged, and you come to find out later in the movie it's because he lost his family to the cartel. So this guy had to be really important for the cartel to come after him like that. Yes. And it sets him out on this revenge path. So we see him where he had it all. He was fighting for good, and then it was all taken from him, and he makes the decision the way I've been fighting is not enough. I need to change my ways, and I need to cross that line and not hold back. Then we also met Emily Blunt's character, Agent Mercer, who is in that same position that he was before the cartel took his family.
Yeah.
And the difference between the two of them, which also ends up being a similarity, is neither of them have anything to lose. The difference between them is that he's fighting for revenge and using that as an excuse that he's fighting for justice, whereas she's truly fighting for justice. And she's just as like, when they butt heads, she's just as strong with it because of her own conviction, but also because she has nothing to lose. And so that dynamic, it's set up so well in that final scene where they're sitting at the table and he's in the shadows, he's wearing all black, and she's up against the light wall and she's wearing all white. You can see this good versus bad, light versus darkness, where they have that conversation of, I am that necessary evil, and you need to let me operate in this gray area because that's the only way we're making a difference here. And you think the whole time that Emily Blunt is the hero of the story, but really she turns out to be an obstacle for the actual protagonist who's making a difference. And I think that element is one of the most creative ways to carry you with the character, where you think you know what's going on the whole time, and then just like Emily Blunt's character, constantly throughout the movie, you have the rug pulled out from under you.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of that, the John Bernthal being a corrupt cop.
Yes. John Bernthal making an
like,
appearance.
You know, it's funny that, you know, the Punisher also plays a corrupt cop.
That's
that's a very deep,
right.
That's a very deep cut right there to the real world. But I didn't see it coming. I feel like I should have, based on why he was the way he was looking at her. He was scoping her out the entire time. It kind of seemed more, I was like, why is he looking at her? I was like, oh, it's John Bernthal. Oh, okay, maybe they're gonna hook up. But like,
well, your guard went
it was
down
weird.
when you found out Reggie was his friend, right?
Exactly. So he comes up, he's like, oh yeah, he's a good guy. And it's like, okay, yeah, it's gonna be fun. They need that. And he takes stuff out of his pocket, and I instantly recognized before the camera had even done its thing. I'm like, oh my god, it's one of those bands.
Yes. Yeah. One of the main plot points was that the cartel was laundering money through one of the local banks, I think. And they were marking that money with these little like silicone bands, like wristbands. And they were like this blue and pink tie-dye color. And one of the big reveals is that Emily Blunt takes Bernthal's character home and they start to get physical, and he empties his pockets and that band is sitting there, and she can't hide it for a second. Immediately she goes stone cold. She is just covered in fear, and she begins to back away from him. And this some will take this the wrong way, but this is one of my most favorite scenes in the entire movie because of how real it is, because you don't get that moment where Emily Blunt physically dominates John Bernthal and triumphs. No, she's about to die. Yeah. And like it's a very realistic portrayal of what that situation would look like in real life, where she tries to push off of him to get the upper hand, but it really doesn't do anything because Bernthal's he's a giant, you know, compared to her at least. And and the way that fight progressed between the two of them is so natural and it very, very believable. That's just one of the very, very many moments throughout this movie where you're leaning in going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what's happening? Oh my God, what, do something, you know? And yeah, I loved that. I absolutely love that about this movie.
There's that scene that does that. The traffic scene does that as well.
But the traffic scene is one of the most tense movie situations probably ever.
Yeah. I could only imagine seeing this in the theater. Like that would have been so much more fun for me. I might rewatch it again and like wear my headphones through my Xbox just to be immersed audibly that way. It is so.
That's the next thing I wanted to touch on was the score, because the score, there's a featurette if you have, it might even be on YouTube. Sicario, Johan Johansson does like a breakdown of his work on this movie, and he said it was one of the few times where he received a movie where it was completely blank. There were no tracks added to it. There was very little notes. It was just Denis's suggestions, and he got to build the entire score from just a blank cut or an audio list cut of the movie where it was just dialogue. And there's so much that he does to intensify. Like, it almost feels like Jaws in certain moments where you hear the drums in the background, and the way he incorporates, like, there's this overhead shot where leading up to that traffic scene, the helicopter overview, where you can hear, it's like you're in the helicopter looking over the land. And it blends so seamlessly into the score that by the time you're in the car with Emily Blunt, your heart's pounding along with that drum. And the soundscape that he created for this movie, there's no real music. It's constant, like, pounding and pounding, and it really puts you on the edge of your seat. But I think what I'm more impressed with about this movie is the moments where there's no sound, because there are so many moments in this where they make you sit and stew in the silence, where there's two characters where the situation could not be more tense, including the final scene in the film. It's just dead silent, where you have to sit with it and really ponder, what are these people going to do next? The music and also the lack thereof, both of them they're done so well. When you heard the score for this movie, did it catch you at all? Did you pay, like, any attention to that, or did it not really hit you the same way?
You mentioned the score, and I'm like, I don't remember that much music.
Right, exactly.
So...
Because it blends so seamlessly into the story that it's almost just part of that tension that you have, where, like, it's you don't even notice it's there, because the stakes are already so heightened that you're already just itching to see what's going to happen next, And it's so beautifully crafted. It's definitely one of my more favorite, I guess, not musical performances, but movie scores, I guess.
Yeah. It really does catch you off guard for sure, because
it's unsettling.
It's so unsettling, and I love the comparison to Jaws, because I very much vibe with that. It is meant to suck you in and then intensify everything that you're already feeling. And the way that at times, like, it mixes with it's got a Western vibe soundtrack in terms of how it plays so well into what you're seeing. So, like, when you watch a Western, you want to hear, like, like, stuff like that. That's why Mandalorian works with what Ludwig Göransson has done. But in this movie, it has, like, very modern takes on Western cliches and how it is tied in, into the music. And every time they show a window and there's dust in there, and it's like the sun rays, or the sun is just beaming through, and you've got the atmosphere, if you will, just falling right there, and it has the same sound every time, and I loved that about it. It's because it sucks you in. It's like, all right, slowing down for a moment, trying to figure out what life is. Obviously, we're not happy because, et cetera, et cetera. The movie is crazy, but it's so well done, and you're talking about the cinematography earlier. I love the color grading of this film. To me, everything is the same. And when in Mexico, it's not, like, overly warm filtered. And that is a common trope in Western cinema. As soon as you cross the border of Mexico, everything gets a lot more warm and and it's just, like, not necessary. And in this movie, there were times where I couldn't tell where the hell we were, because they kept the color grading the same way. And I loved that about it, because it all should feel the same. Just because you cross a border doesn't change how the sun affects it.
Right, exactly. And that's another thing, is, like, in the movie, they have to tell you where they are, because you don't know, because there isn't that visual representation of, oh, they're in El Paso now. Oh no, now they're in Juarez, Mexico. Like, other than the setting and scenery, if you can't see more than 10, 20 feet in front of you, you're right. The color grading is exactly the same. It truly is another representation of those blurred lines where
Yeah.
you don't know where you're operating really. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it kind of follows Emily Blunt. Like you follow Emily Blunt's character in that whole sweeping section too, because you're like, I don't know where I'm at, and she's like, where are we? And it's like, oh, thank God, I'm
Right.
not the
She
only
doesn't
one.
even know she's going to Mexico till she's already on her way.
Yeah. So,
real quick,
yeah.
in the comments, my Aunt Pam is here saying hi, John Ross. Hi, Aunt Pam. So happy you are on Facebook. Yes.
Yeah.
Man, she scrolls by and says hi every time, and it will never not make me smile. So hi. But there's one other element I want to ask you about, and
Yes,
then I
hit
want to
me.
hear just other general thoughts you had. But there's another character that we met throughout this movie where up until the probably the third act, you really don't get a sense of how he's relevant to the story.
Agent Stillwell, right? Isn't that who he
No,
was
actually.
in Marvel?
Oh, okay, yes. Okay, so we are talking about the same person. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So in this movie, his name is Silvio.
Silvio.
We meet him as he's a cop in Juarez, Mexico, where he is, and he's played by Maximiliano Hernandez, who, yes, is Agent Sitwell.
Sitwell.
Yes, you're right.
That's close,
And
that's close.
yeah, he plays this so well, you don't even really recognize him. But I don't know. I'm assuming he speaks Spanish because his Spanish was like really good in this. But so we throughout the movie we get these not weird, but definitely unexpected cutaways of just a cop in Juarez just living his life, and it's just him at home with his family. He's got a son that plays soccer, and he's always begging him, can we go to the park and play soccer? Excuse me. And his wife is just quietly slaving away in the kitchen pretty much every scene we see her, where he works long days, late nights, and we find out he's a police officer. And then as Graves's team is raiding that tunnel on the border, we finally see how Silvio's related. He's got his cop car parked, and the trunk is popped open, and they're unloading all these drugs from his car. So we find out that he's a corrupt cop. He's actually a drug mule who is helping transport the narcotics. And other than that one scene, and even after that, you really don't get the sense that he's doing any of this with malintent.
Yeah.
You certainly don't get the sense that he's benefiting from it in any way, because the life that he lives is certainly modest, very minimal in what they have. His bedroom is just the bed and the nightstand next to it. And you can kind of see that there's this other layer added where Silvio is a guy who is more likely than not just caught in the middle and is a victim of his circumstances. And because he joined the force, was most likely forced into this life and doesn't have a clear way out of it. He ends up being apprehended by Alejandro, who uses him to go find his who will take him to the drug cartel, the big boss, the boss's boss. And Silvio ends up meeting his fate in that moment. And he has a very triumphant scene at the end where he's standing in front of his car, and you can see like he's almost exuding this I've done my duty, I'm dying with honor type deal, where he's like, if I die, I'm going to die with dignity. And then Alejandro shoots him in the back of the head, and that's that. So with that layer added to the story, it tarnishes Alejandro in a way.
Oh, yeah.
And it also adds a lot to the perspective of a normal civilian's life in Juarez, Mexico. So that's a very long-winded explanation. Thomas, I want to know your thoughts on Silvio's inclusion and what he meant to you, to Sicario's story. What did you take away from that character?
I took away that, they build you up to not like it's very much meant to show the depths that Alejandro has and is willing to go to. You know, he pretty much baits him in, right? The whole time that they're together, but you only in that moment care about Silvio because you followed him this whole movie. You know, he wakes up, takes his son to soccer.
Right.
Then the next one you find out he's a cop. Then you continue on. I think he gets 3 scenes maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the scenes is him offloading that cocaine, and you're like, oh no. Oh man, like this is probably not going to end well. Get out of there, but like you're cheering him to get that cocaine out of there. Get the frack out
Well,
of
you
there.
can see the drug lord pulls a gun on Silvio, and Silvio's like, I truly want no part of this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to survive.
Yeah, exactly.
And he immediately gets tossed into this whirlwind and meets his fate because of it. But possibly the most intriguing part of it is how the movie ended. Because that directly relates to Silvio.
Yeah, no, I was going to get to that because that's where I was just like, fuck, dude. Like that's where the shell shock sunk in.
Right. We'll circle back to that.
With Silvio, though, and how it relates to Alejandro, it's because, you know, up to this point, you're like, yeah, maybe Alejandro's okay. Maybe he's okay. And then it gets to a point and it keeps going. And you find out his wife was beheaded and his daughter thrown into a vat of acid. I told my friend this yesterday, and they're like, I don't want to hear that. And I was like, you don't see it, but you hear about it. And they're like, that's even worse.
Yeah. Right.
But then it leads you to the point where you're like, oh God, maybe this guy's like all the way off of the deep end. He does that to Silvio. And that's just like sign one that, oh, this has nothing to do with justice anymore.
Right.
And when he gets in, he shoots young Jefe, slices his throat, uses him as a bait, shoots the guards, takes out all the guards, goes in there and sits down with Fausto.
Yep.
And
the big boss.
And he's there with his wife and his 2 boys. And it is so, what is the word? Intense. It is tense as hell. No sound, just talking, pure acting and performance. And I gotta say, it's amazing. The wife crushes it. And he just shoots the wife and the 2 boys and tells the guy to finish eating his meal. And they have a great discussion. It's like, oh, you're coming in. Who do you think taught them that? Or who do you think taught me that? It's like, oh, you're just a pawn like I was. It'll never matter. And then he shoots him. He gets shot because Jefe is the one saying this. Jefe gets shot, and that ends it. Cut to the very final scene, and it's the young boy staring at his dad's bed. No one is there.
Oh, don't forget about the ending Emily Blunt scene too.
Yeah,
it cuts straight from Benicio del Toro's Alejandro murdering Fausto in cold blood, and then it jumps straight to Emily Blunt's apartment, where Alejandro then shows up.
Yeah, and he says you should stop staring. You shouldn't stand on any balconies for a while.
Right, and that leads to that good versus evil scene I had mentioned earlier.
Yes,
and then as he walks away, they both. This is super interesting and points back to that parallel between them. They both have the opportunity to kill each other.
Yeah,
and neither of them do it. Benicio or Alejandro's reasoning was because he truly didn't want to, because he reminded him of his daughter.
Yes.
And he says, you remind me of the daughter they took from me, showing that he's still very much holding on to that vengeance. But right. And he is, even though he's not letting go of that, he still sees good in Emily Blunt's character, and doesn't want to pull the trigger because of that.
And I love the don't ever, you pointed a gun at me again, I'm gonna kill you line.
Yeah, right.
In the movie. So when she does walk out and pull a gun on him from the balcony,
right,
and she's sitting there, and she just starts crying, and he just stares at her like, you're not gonna
no music, still
no music, just
silence,
dude,
just all silence. And so they both walk away from that situation having had the opportunity to take the other out,
and they just
but
can't.
Also making the realization this person, especially Mercer, she realizes Alejandro does need to exist because what I'm doing
Isn't enough.
I didn't do anything here. I'm the only one who got battered and beaten and torn apart. Everyone else has less than a scratch on them.
Yeah.
That has to say something.
Says a lot.
Right.
Says
And
a
then,
lot.
yes, you're right. Then we cut to the final scene in the movie. The score cuts back in at the perfect time. And we catch up with Silvio's son, who is standing in Silvio's bedroom staring at an empty bed.
And mom takes him to soccer practice or soccer game, and they're all having fun. You're riding, you're having fun. They're right there at the border, right?
Mm-hmm. Right
all
there,
of a sudden,
right on the edge of Juarez.
Quite literally at the gates.
Just
And
playing a soccer game, and they
bullets
hear machine gun fire right behind them. And they all turn and look.
stop and look. And at this point, all the music cuts back out. And it's dead silent. And you just sit there with them. And it's like, okay, what are we going to do? Are we going to run? What are we going to do? And they stare. Even the kids are staring. And then they blow the whistle and they go back to playing soccer. And it cuts to credits.
Right.
And
I love that ending, man. I
it
love
is
that
just
ending
so
because
life moves on.
exactly. There's so many different ways to interpret the ending of this movie. It's like you could take that and say Emily Blunt is right because what they're doing ultimately did not make that difference, and the violence is still running rampant, and people will always be in danger under that situation.
Yeah.
But you could, I mean, the amount of different directions you can take with that ending is it's phenomenal. Yeah, and I absolutely loved how it cut out because it leaves you with that question of, did anything I just watched make a difference?
Yeah, that's a great point. And if I'm not mistaken, they go up. There's a scene in the movie where it's like, you want to see something cool? And they go, and it's like, what is that? It's like, that's what happens when you cut the head off a chicken. And in theory, they just cut the biggest head off the biggest chicken in Mexico. Exactly. Right.
They alluded to it early on. Next? They showed us that there were explosions and gunfire and cop cars running every direction. They showed us that very early.
Yeah.
So that gunfire at the end is most likely alluding to the fact that what we saw earlier is only going to get worse now.
Power hates a vacuum.
Power hates. Yes.
Power hates a vacuum. And so someone will always swoop on in and cover it up and take power for themselves. JRB, please don't make me rank this out of 5 stars because I still haven't figured out how to do that yet.
I will not. Let's just end with this. Do you have any final thoughts on the film, or is there anything else that you just want to get off your chest after watching Sicario?
Yeah, don't watch this first thing in the morning. That is what I want to get off my chest. I woke up and I was like, oh, I'll watch Sicario. And then I was like, well, let me eat and do some yoga and like wake up a little bit
first. Don't want to be stirring.
No, not at all. And then I was like, okay, I've been up for 2 hours. I'll watch this. And I'm like, nope, I could have done another 2 or 3 or 5 hours and I'd have been okay.
It's all about finding that sweet spot, man, because you don't want to go to bed and watch this either.
No, you don't. You don't want to wake up.
This is an early afternoon kind of flick.
Yes, very much so. So don't watch this first thing in the morning unless that's your thing.
And if that is your thing, reach out to us. Okay.
Yeah, man.
We can help.
No judging, no judgment, but teach me the ways of doing that because I couldn't.
Right.
But I love this movie and I'm very excited. I'm kind of excited to check out the second one. Is it made by Denis?
That's a great question. I actually don't know if the second one is also directed by him or not. Let me look. I want to say it's actually someone else.
It is Stefano Salamo.
You got it. Yeah. I will say the second one is also a really fun ride. It does a much more in-depth character study on Alejandro. Okay. And kind of re-cements the fact that he is kind of the main character in this franchise.
Yeah.
Well, actually, per your qualifications, it wouldn't be a franchise because there's only the 2 films. But the second one is great. I don't enjoy it as much as the first, but it's a very, very different take on the character. And believe it or not, it's actually a little bit more violent.
Wow.
But yeah, in the second one, he ends up with a young girl who is deaf and only speaks sign language. And he ends up. I don't want to spoil anything, but
Yeah, don't, because I want to watch it. You
Yeah,
dick.
it is good. It's a good watch. We will definitely have to check that one out together. But yeah, Sicario. If you haven't seen it, that's on my top 10 list, I would say.
Wow, fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah, check that out. Check that out. So we've done two real world films.
Very real. Very
And
real.
I'm very excited to go into rom-coms because I feel like that's not very real at all sometimes, you know?
Yeah, man. I want all of the crazy awkward camera angles. I want all of the cringy puns. I want the absolutely unrealistic situations that these girls get themselves into, and all of the unrealistic I don't know, archetypes that these men kind of represent.
I'm gonna say,
all rom-coms are absurd, and I'm so excited.
Yeah. All I'm gonna say is just put me in the rom-coms, and I promise you, we'll have some fun. Just put me in the rom-com. Don't make me watch it. Full circle, like the circle of life. We are gonna take a brief ad break because we're gonna dive right on into the news. It could be another 50 minutes, so we will see you after the ads. Bros and broettes.
We are a touring acoustic duo crashing kitchens around the country. We go from house to house every Friday night, and we create music, we create food, a good time, we stream it live, and we do it for free. So now we're just really kind of like trying to develop it and build a community group that people believe in, then they'll help us. So we played from our rehearsal room, we played from the bathroom, thankfully that didn't catch on.
I probably played guitar in my room, not for anyone, in front of anyone, nobody heard, for probably about 10 years.
And then one Friday night, we played from the kitchen. It's the main place people want to be. It's where the food is, it's where the drink is, it's where the best lighting is. You can go to any party and I guarantee you, the kitchen is going to be popping.
Our ultimate goal, I think, would be to crash kitchens every Friday all around the world.
Awesome. And we are back. Good stuff. Thomas is still not on the screen, so I'm going to be flying solo for this next part. But yeah, there is a ton of news that Thomas and I wanted to talk about that we just didn't get the time to go over last week because of how crazy San Diego Comic-Con was. We had, just with the MCU announcements alone, we got to learn about the entirety, which will probably not be the entirety come a week or two, or a month or two, or even a year or two, of Phase 5. And we also got our first look at Phase 6. But even since then, in the last week, Thomas, there's been more Marvel developments. There's been some DC developments. There's even been some Tomb Raider developments. So there's been a lot going on. I want to throw it to you. Where do you want to start with all this? Because we got some very interesting news topics to cover.
I want to end with the stuff we normally talk about because, let's be honest, whenever we talk about that stuff, it goes long. So let's build our way up and try and keep us at a capped time limit.
Cool.
With the, Tomb Raider film rights are now up for grabs, and Alicia Vikander is no longer attached as Lara Croft. MGM has returned the rights to producer Graham King and his GK Films after owning the IP for 9 years. Lead star is the lead star from that era is expected to be recast. The opening bids have spurred a bidding war since last week, apparently. And it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. Because if I'm not mistaken, Amazon bought out MGM in March of 22. Let's see if I can find it in here.
Yeah, it was very recently.
$8.5 billion. And so they basically, Amazon literally in this case was just like, here, take these rights back. We don't need them. Like, is what they're saying.
Right. I'm a little confused. I don't follow the Tomb Raider like movie franchise. So like, did MGM only make the one movie?
Yes, because in
Paramount had it when Angelina Jolie did it, right?
I do believe so. Let's see.
I know that
yes,
I
Paramount.
I didn't see the 2018 one with
Alicia.
Thank you. Yes. But I do remember not long after that one came out, there was already talks of a sequel, and there was a lot of hype around that actress continuing on in that role. And now, sadly, it seems like we won't see her in that role again because now a new studio gets to pick it up and do their own iteration. And that was the more exciting part of it was, although it is sad that the MGM franchise won't be what the fans wanted it to be, now it's open for anyone. It's not public IP, you know, someone's still got to come pick it up. But we've seen that some video game franchises, like, say, I don't know, Uncharted, are doing surprisingly well at the box office. Another one comes to mind, Sonic the Hedgehog has become wildly successful. Thomas, when you see that these film rights are up for grabs,
yes.
First of all, do you see an immediate bidding war starting? Do you think people are going to be fighting tooth and nail to get this?
I don't. Fighting tooth and nail is a bit strong, but it fits for the franchise. I think, yes, somebody out there, you know who could pick it up? Netflix. You know who needs original content and IP? Netflix, right? Maybe not original IP, excuse me, but they want to build stuff. They have Avatar,
at least
the Last Airbender,
recognizable
right?
IP, yeah.
Yeah, and they can come in and be like, hey, guess what? We own Tomb Raider. Here are these movies. We're putting this budget in on it, et cetera, et cetera. So I think very much it could land somewhere. And if Disney picks it up, they have Hulu in the US and Disney Plus in every other place in the world that they can put that out on. They can make PG-13 Tomb Raiders and try and inspire the female, inspire young girls to be, you know, amazing at what they do, which, I mean, honestly is everything. So yeah, be that. But in this case, I'm trying to, like, Amazon does not need it, clearly. Otherwise, they'd have kept it.
Right.
Paramount could utilize it again, you know, if they're still around. Universal, you know, I could see them trying to toss it onto Peacock. But really, Netflix is the one that I would lean to getting it first. Unless, you know, Disney and Fox go after it with their 20th Century Studios. You know, it would fit well under that banner. They don't need any more IP, though. So what about you?
It's tough because, like, that Disney does seem like a logical landing spot. But when you think about it, it is kind of derivative of Indiana Jones. And
yes,
with the new indie film supposedly on the way,
yes,
Disney might seem logical long term, but probably not right now.
And they also have National Treasure. So
National Treasure, there's another one. So we've already got multiple action adventure IPs where it's treasure hunting. You know, modern day, whether it be archaeology or literal tomb exploration, they already have an abundance of content that's similar to that. But I like that you say Netflix because having it go straight to a streaming service, having it go straight to a hub where it's just a content machine where they can take that franchise, that IP, and really build a world for it. Netflix seems like a logical place to do that because alongside a new Tomb Raider feature film, they could also develop a series to go alongside it to expand that universe, to introduce new characters and to bring more interest to those movies.
Animated series, baby.
Animated. See, that's something that other than the video games, obviously, Tomb Raider really hasn't done, right?
Correct. And they came from the game. So, like, it's in a way going back to its roots, if you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be a new medium, but would also feel at least a little familiar. And would also give them a ton more freedom in that world building, too, where they don't have to spend millions upon millions of dollars on the visuals and the set where they can draw it all and they can visualize everything and see what clicks for people, and then they can invest the funds into building that world in live action. I love that idea. Netflix seems, albeit I don't really enjoy what Netflix has been putting out lately, at least not the majority of it.
Okay.
Like Gray Man, I know it's a Russo brothers flick, might be my least favorite movie they've made.
Wow.
Spiderhead was interesting, but still kind of lackluster. Most of the Netflix movies that have come out this year have been on the lower side for me.
Okay.
Minus a couple like Adam Sandler's Hustle, which is only because it's a basketball movie and that hits me in the right spot.
That movie is great.
Yeah. Real feel good movie. I don't know. What do you guys think? Drop in the comments. Do you think that Tomb Raider should even keep going? Does anyone want to see another Tomb Raider movie? Do you think that they should go in a different direction and start with like an animated series and build their way back up to another feature film? I personally think, that 2018 was only 4 years ago. That's not a long time since the last Tomb Raider movie came out. So is it too soon for a reboot? Or do you think it's necessary? I don't know. Let us know in the comments because I'd be very interested to see where everyone else wants Tomb Raider to end up.
Yeah, Netflix, get these rights, bring Alicia Vikander back, and go ham, dude. Just go ham. Make it all. Let's jump to DC, something that JRB loves talking about. Speaking of acronyms, confirmed by THR, CW's The Flash will end in season 9, which will be ending in 2023 with season 9, 13 episode final season. Man. I was there at the beginning. JRB, were you?
No, The Flash was something I didn't pick up on until a few seasons out. My brother is actually the one that told me to check it out. So
shout out, bro.
Yeah. Thank you, Chase. I have watched it in blurbs whenever I am not watching anything else. So I'm not very invested in the show, but I know that it has reached a ton of people. I know some of my friends at the direct, like Aaron Mercer. I always butcher his last name, but Aaron, I love you, bud. Big A is a huge The Flash fan, along with a few others at the direct. I see on Twitter all the time whenever this show makes an announcement, like when they revealed his new suit at DC Fandom. Was it last year or the year prior?
Yeah.
I remember the reaction that got. 9 seasons is, I want to say Smallville is the only DC show that went longer.
Correct.
Legends of Tomorrow was close. What was that, like 7 seasons?
7 sounds right, but Arrow had 8.
Arrow had 8, yes. But 9 seasons. I think we were talking earlier. This 9th season of The Flash isn't going to be as long as the other ones, though.
No, it's only 13 episodes, which is very short for normal and kind of long for us these days. But
right. I mean, compared to the Disney Plus stuff, you have a 6-episode miniseries, and you're calling it a season of television. The Flash is going to be 13 episodes, and that's less than what it usually is. So
it's going to be interesting.
Still twice as long as what Miss Marvel was, more than. But I mean, The Flash, end of an era, dude. It's been going since 9 seasons. That's
2014. It is when it started. I remember. Maybe it was 2015. Excuse me. 2015 is when it kicked around. It was 2014 because it was.
I think it was 14. 2. Yeah.
So 2014 we got there. Because it started before I graduated college. Now I recall. That's how long ago it was, bro. Oh my god. And it's so. I have very vivid memories of trying to get all of my friends in on this show because I was like, oh my god, it's like, this is what I want. Remember, 2014, Age of Ultron hadn't even come out.
Right.
Cap Winter Soldier had just come out, if I'm not mistaken, in 2014.
Yeah, that was April 2014, I believe.
April 2014.
And Guardians was that August?
That August. So this came out before Guardians, right? If I'm not mistaken. I think it premiered. Oh, no, that's a lie. I think it premiered in September. It premiered after. Maybe even October back then.
It premiered while Guardians was in theaters. That is insane.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. So, like, game-changing time for DC on TV and the MCU on the big screen. So like this is tied in deep. I stopped watching after Crisis on Infinite Earths. I just couldn't keep up anymore. There were too many shows, and they'd reached this ultimate pinnacle climax, this end game of sorts that I didn't know if they could follow up with. And the show that I stayed with the longest after was Legends of Tomorrow. And I watched a little bit of Flash, and I was like, it is what it is, man. Like, I'm not really drawn in right now by what's going on the show. And I had other things going on. I started working more. And the other one that stood out to me after Crisis on Infinite Earths is Superman and Lois. And it was just revealed that it's in its own universe. Like, it's not in the Arrowverse, Prime Earth or whatever. Earth Prime is what it ends up landing as. You find out later on that it's not in that. So it's like the Arrowverse now is seemingly over, dude. There's nobody left. None of them are left.
Yeah, when we say end of an era, it's not just Flash. It is what started with Oliver Queen in Arrow. It's weird because Arrow is a show that I started with from the beginning.
Oh,
and
baby.
Man, that was a ride. Arrow was so ahead of its time, man. And the Flash did follow up on it in a lot of great ways.
Yeah.
And really picked up that mantle that Arrow was carrying as a series, and kind of took over that main CW spot, in my opinion.
Yeah, it did.
And yeah, it is really awesome to see how far it's come. I don't know if it's ending with the 9th season because they're just saying, I think we've got to a point where we've told the story we want to tell. When you mentioned Crisis on Infinite Earths, you're right. That is hard to follow, and I'm surprised they even tried. But to go for, 2 more seasons after that?
Yeah.
Or 3?
2, I do believe.
To go 2, however many years after that, is impressive in itself. And I don't know if a 10th season would even make sense. I don't keep up with the show, so I don't know where they're at storytelling wise.
Same.
But I can't imagine there's that much substance left.
I know that, being on a show like that for as long as you are as a main character, you lose out on other opportunities. And after a while, you want to do other things. If you look at everything that CW has been doing, they're cleaning house. They're going in a new direction, it seems. I don't know what direction that is, but they're kind of getting away from DC on CW. And remember, HBO Max has all of the DC stuff right now. So it's very, Green Lantern is a series that's still supposed to exist allegedly for HBO Max.
Right.
And it's like, maybe they're gonna. I get a feeling that CW may not even have Superman and Lois after a while, only because HBO Max is gonna be like, hey, guess what? I want that. Let's since we're kind of talking about DC, let's stay in really quick. And
I want to mention one other thing real quick, because you had said that these people lose out on other opportunities. I want us to remember that for Grant Gustin when we talk about this next point here.
Yes, because Ben Affleck is back as Bruce Wayne in Aquaman 2 in place of Michael Keaton. And it seems to be because of the reordering of the Flash movie that's never existed, but was announced 1 week after the premiere of Flash, but it's going to come out, a couple of weeks after the finale of Flash. But yeah, no, fuck me, whatever. It's going... Michael Keaton is no longer in Aquaman 2. It seems his scenes have been entirely replaced with Ben Affleck. And it seems to be they want, in order, a chronological situation to go forward. So Batfleck's in. Keaton, Bat Keaton is out. I don't really know how to say this without sounding like I don't care in a negative way, but I don't have any feelings toward it at all. Like, no good, no bad. I'm like, all right, cool. Makes sense. I kind of like it more because they have great chemistry together, and I don't know what Momoa and Keaton's chemistry is. I would assume great because they're both great at what they do. How do you feel about this before I jump to our next Batman related sitch?
I'm kind of confused because I I didn't think Aquaman 2 was doing any reshoots. But I mean, they did have to cut Amber Heard out, so who knows what they're doing. But I think, like you were saying, Michael Keaton was originally supposed to appear as Batman. I think the reason we might be seeing this is because The Flash is, we don't know when that movie's coming out. And Michael Keaton as Batman, I feel like the Flash movie is where they were going to make sense of that.
Yeah.
Of Michael Keaton's return as Batman. So seeing him show up in Aquaman 2 without seeing the Flash first, no one would get why Michael Keaton was there. So maybe they're just bringing back Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne to kind of just act as that Batman role. And it could just be, it's probably not anything big. I mean, you see Ben Affleck's in this all black suit, so there's a good chance he's only appearing as Bruce Wayne. But yeah, I mean, even the caption that Jason Momoa put on this picture, I mean, can you take a second and just make sure it's sort of coherent before you hit post? Because I have no idea what he's trying to say here. And he doesn't even confirm whether or not.
Jason Momoa, man. You versus Momoa.
I don't know what it is about him. I just can you at least take a second and. No,
we don't do that.
No, we don't do that. So, but yeah, so I don't know how I feel. I'm already on the fence with Aquaman 2. I sort of enjoyed the first one. My favorite element was actually Black Manta. So
my God, yes!
I'm really looking forward to see more of him. So that's why I'll be seeing this movie.
Yes.
The whole Batman situation is just kind of a back burner thing for me. If it's good, then great. If it's not, that's what I thought. You know.
Yeah, I'm here for Black Manta. I can't lie. When they said that he was when they set him up to be the villain of the next movie, I was like, I like this so much more than I like Orm.
The rooftop chase scene with Black Manta and Aquaman, by far the best scene in that first movie. You take all the visuals, all the CGI that they used for those great big depth scenes with the ocean crashing over them and deep in the trench, and then also with the waterfall and getting the trident. None of that compared, for me personally, to the rooftop chase scene with Black Manta. That was one of the best superhero scenes I've seen in a long time.
Is it because it's all practical?
I honestly think it is. I think it is because it has such a Mission Impossible feel to it that you're so immersed in it and you're not distracted with the awe of the colorful visuals and the grandeur of everything that they're trying to introduce. It's just a guy chasing another guy,
and they both got powers.
Right, exactly, yeah. And it's so well done. But anyway, Ben Affleck as Batman, I really like his Batman. Not as big of a fan of Bruce Wayne, just because it's not my favorite type of Bruce Wayne. I don't think it's anything personally against Affleck, but yeah, I mean. They're going to keep bringing him around. I don't have a problem with it. I hope these movies make sense.
Nope. They never will, man. Really quick, we've talked about Ben Affleck 2 weeks in a row. That's a record for us.
That is. Yeah. We hardly ever talk about Batfleck.
That's amazing. Speaking of another Batman who a lot of people did not enjoy the Bruce Wayne of the Batman HBO Max spinoff. The Penguin Show has a pretty exciting update. Colin Farrell said that Matt Reeves is all over the upcoming Penguin series. He's so obsessive about what he does, and he's all over it. The Penguin as well. And he says that he's not going to direct it, but he's all over the structure of the scripts and who's going to direct them. So it's very exciting. Sounds as if it's kind of getting closer and closer to production. If the scripts are there and they're figuring out who's going to direct them, now they're in the plan. Like it sounds like business is picking up, and I'm very, very excited for that.
Yeah. I gotta say, I had no interest in this before I saw the Batman.
Yeah.
Because I was like, why are they already planning on doing these spin-off series? How do they know people are going to be interested in this world that they're trying to build? And I should have just waited till I saw the movie, because I can't wait to see the story about Penguin now.
Oh my God. How does he become king of the city? Huh?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's, when we meet him in the Batman, he's already in this position of power. and we don't really learn much about how he got there or what he's even doing, really, outside of what is directly related to Batman's journey. So, yeah,
Take it easy, sweetheart.
I'm very excited to see this Colin Farrell series. I think I'm most interested in who else we're going to meet along the way, and whether or not they'll show up in another Batman movie. Because I don't think it's going to be just about Penguin. I think there's going to be other villains lurking. I definitely think that he's going to have connections to Joker, or at least information on Joker, where they'll be able to sprinkle some more little Joker seeds in there for what they're building up to. Because
Gotham loves the comeback story.
Oh man, they're putting a lot of attention on him. They a week or two after the movie came out, they're like, here's that scene of the Joker. Here you go. And they released full res images of him. Not his full face. We had to kind of piece that together ourselves. But oh man, yeah, they've got some big plans. And I think the Penguin being the first series they're doing, it fits, man. It really does, because it's not the villain, but it can build to it.
Exactly. I feel like he might be the long-term villain.
I think, yeah.
Which is crazy. Like, he might be we're building to this because eventually this will topple the city again.
Yes, exactly right. And I think that this is where they're going to take a lot of notes from what Gotham did on TV. Where that show had so many strong points. And I think where it really didn't connect was just that it was, I don't know if it wasn't the production quality, but it was the amount of effort that went into putting those stories together and making them make sense to that universe.
Yeah,
it kind of felt like each season you were just thrown into a different scenario, and it didn't really. They were just constantly trying to throw onto the pile, and there wasn't really any clear-cut goal. I think when you have them tied into this movie universe like the Batman, you're going to get a much more clear direction, which we know fans are just dying to have these days. What is the direction of this franchise? Where is it going? Feed me spoon feed me.
Feed me.
The Batman, I think they're going to set that tone very early with this Penguin series, and they're going to show you what they want to do with it.
I have a question. What's gonna be, what's the future like? What's the story, the long-term plan of Alan Horn?
Whoo, man. Okay, so yeah, man. So for those who didn't hear, the head honcho Alan Horn has once again come out of retirement, and he is back home at Warner Brothers. For those who don't know, this is the guy who Kevin Feige, Marvel's CCO, says has had the greatest influence on his professional career. He basically paved the way for Kevin Feige to build the MCU as what it is today. And now David Zaslav, the new CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, the same guy who came in and immediately slashed like all of those DC projects that made no sense to anyone. Like the KJ Apa, I don't remember who the female counterpart was for that, but it was KJ Apa as the Wonder Twins. And 2 weeks later, David Zaslav's like, we're not doing that. So he has brought in Alan Horn, and it probably won't be for long, but at least for the next couple of years, he's going to have some great guidance in this industry. And I think the DC branch of Warner Brothers is going to benefit from it the most.
Very exciting, because he oversaw the Harry Potter franchise, right? When he was the COO of Warner Brothers.
Right. And look where that went.
Yes. And he was forced out as president and COO in 2013 at Warner Brothers.
Right.
But he oversaw Harry Potter and Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy in that time. And it's interesting because Man of Steel came out in 2013, and look at what happened to that franchise, the Snyderverse, after Alan Horn was there.
Exactly. It's almost, I mean, you can pinpoint almost to the day when things started to go downhill for the DC movies. And as much as I love Man of Steel, I do. It is probably my favorite Superman movie. but that was the turning point where it was like the last good DC movie until we got stuff like Shazam and the Suicide Squad, and now coming up like Black Adam, and I'm sure I'm missing a couple, but the majority of DC movies from Warner Brothers have not been well received since then, minus like Wonder Woman, perhaps. But even the second Wonder Woman movie was largely a flop. So, yeah, Alan Horn having his guidance in this new era that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is saying Black Adam will kind of kick off.
Yeah.
I mean, what great timing, you know? I know Black Adam's already shot and ready to show, but I mean, going forward, you have like one of the most successful business heads in this industry, where he just reports to David Zaslav, the CEO, and I don't see a better recipe for success right now. I think that was a real baller move on Warner Brothers' part, especially because I don't know, it's kind of a weird take, but like I feel like some studios, if they would have done this, would have been kind of like almost like a white flag type of deal, like not white flag, but like we need some serious help. I'm interpreting this move from Warner Brothers as more like just a smart business decision. I don't see it as desperate. And maybe that's just because we're not too close to any super terrible releases of theirs right now, where it's not fresh in our brains that they just did something that we don't like. But
they're on a win right now. They're on a winning record.
Right. I mean, this could be the start of a great streak for them. And with Black Adam right around the corner, I think that's going to be the deciding factor of whether they're going to take off from here or whether it's going to be more of the same.
If you think about it, Black Adam and Shazam already directly tied, already a universe to go forward. Beautiful. That is all that comes out in 2022. That's brand new, right? All we're getting is, this one little universe over here, the Batman, and then, honestly, Shazam and Black Adam could start its own entire universe. We have no idea.
They kind of already have. I mean, when you look at the first Shazam movie and then you see whether or not they address it in Black Adam, you see how Black Adam ties into it. Yeah. And then you get another Shazam movie. By the end of that second Shazam, Fury of the Gods, the scope of that universe, the scale of it can increase tenfold.
Is about to change.
Exactly. The hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change. So it's going to be really wild to see where they take those films. And you're right. It is exciting that they do seem to be hyper-focused on like one element right now.
Yes. All we got to say is Alan Horn, don't fuck it up. You too, Zaslav. No pressure or anything, right?
No pressure.
But today we're not gonna talk about Andor itself too much. But oh my god, it was amazing. Go watch it. Andor has a new premiere date. It blew me away because I'm like, I can't wait. We are 30 days away. We're so close. 3-episode premiere. Oh my god. Did that say September 21st? Rewind. God dang it. It's September 21st. I don't want to wait that long.
Yeah.
Well, we Star Wars fans have to wait until September 21st for Andor to premiere with a 3-episode drop. But that's not what we're here to talk about. You want to hear me verbally blow the Andor trailer? Hop on over to Reckless Rebellion's feed. We'll be talking about it this upcoming week as we review Return of the Jedi also. But the real question for us right now is, what does that mean for She-Hulk? She-Hulk starts in 16 days and will now get 4 or 5 weeks to get halfway through their series before Andor starts. How do you feel?
I feel a couple different ways about it, because I do think that they wanted to give She-Hulk some room to breathe. It really tells me that this show is going to be kind of more eccentric, a little bit off its rocker, if you will, compared to what we've been used to from Marvel lately. When you think of what we've gotten from Marvel this year, it's been kind of all over the place. We've gotten Moon Knight, which is a super interesting, but a little witty, but also very dark character study. Then we had, Multiverse of Madness, which was a Sam Raimi movie. I'll just leave it at that. Sam Raimi horror movie, Marvel style. Then we have Miss Marvel, which is a feel-good coming-of-age story of a teenage Muslim. And then you have Thor: Love and Thunder, which is a witty Thor sequel where it's space Vikings, you know. So now we get She-Hulk, and it's it's a sitcom, a very self-aware sitcom where she's literally going to be breaking the fourth wall, and they're introducing a new Hulk. Now, I think it's important to note that they have not introduced a Hulk in any form since 2008.
Yeah.
There's been no further development of a Hulk character outside of an Avengers or Avenger level movie like Ragnarok, say, in a long, long time. So, and everyone knows Hulk has been historically poorly received by general audiences, where it's just they cannot put their finger on how to present this IP to a wider audience. So you got something on your mind. What is it?
That's partly due to, would it be Universal?
Universal is the biggest factor, and that's they still won't let go of those film rights for some reason, even though they haven't cracked the code on how to use Hulk. Very, very interesting. Makes you think, do they have further plans for Hulk when the MCU's done with them?
No, I don't think they do. I think they literally are. What they are doing is, we're going to hold on to these because we can. And you cannot make a Hulk movie without our permission. But
Right.
they can make Hulk shows, bitch.
Right, right. And so that's where we're at now. So now, in a way, even though it will be different in almost every sense from 2008's The Incredible Hulk, a lot of the cast is the same. Or I shouldn't say cast, but a lot of the character list will be the same.
Yes.
God,
I hope we get Samuel Stern.
So So even though it's man. Oh, could you imagine the leader is like a post-credit stinger at the end of that series? Man, talk about a good
Yes,
addition for the Thunderbolts, maybe. But
God, yes.
but She-Hulk. It's been 14 years since they've introduced a Hulk character.
Yeah.
Or you could say it's been 10 if you want to count Mark Ruffalo's revamp of the Hulk, but it is still the same character. So I think giving it that extra room to breathe does show a little bit that they want to make sure that it's the only thing people are paying attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Miss Marvel's reception is going to have, it plays a role in that too, because Miss Marvel, like you had pointed out, was the not most poorly received, but had the lowest ratings out of all these Disney Plus shows they've done for Marvel so far. So to follow it with something as eccentric and as out of the box as the She-Hulk series they're doing, I think, I don't want to say they're not confident in it, but I think that they're giving it a little extra room
to breathe.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Now
think
you're a huge Star Wars fan.
Oh yeah.
So I know that when you saw that date, you already told us your heart kind of dropped a little bit. They are essentially making up for it by premiering 3 episodes right off the bat.
Yeah.
So those 3 weeks you're losing, you are getting right back all at once. But what is it? How do you feel about She-Hulk dominating that space? I mean, does that mean? Do you think it's going to perform that well?
Stoked.
Or okay,
genuinely, I've been super hyped for She-Hulk since they announced it. Visually, she is one of the best. She's one of my favorite characters on the page. Just every time I'm like, that's perfect. They've never drawn her wrong that I have seen. And when she's in animation, she's awesome. Yeah. So I'm very excited for it. I didn't realize there was a whole segment of her comics that were just straight up breaking the fourth wall and comedic. I didn't get that from the character. I've always just been a fan of her strength and how she looks and the way that she goes from lawyer to Hulk and how she has to actually balance those, where Bruce Banner didn't have to really balance those.
Right. It was one or the other.
And here she's kind of got to do both all at the same time.
You know, I'm glad you said that, because I am hoping that I'm right when I say that She-Hulk is the reason that they introduced Smart Hulk, because we're seeing, I mean, we saw it in that clip. Being a Hulk is all about finding balance.
Yeah. Okay. Star Wars.
I think Hulk is here to mentor her so that we can get back to a rampaging Hulk. I think that's just wishful thinking.
Yeah.
But having him in that mentor role and then having him revert back, similar to how in the comics Hulk had to when he realized he was going to become Maestro. He's like, I can't be this smart, or I'm going to end up dominating this entire world.
Yes.
You know? It would be really cool if it leads
Does
to something like that.
Kang show him that future? Stop. We're not talking about Kang yet. We'll get there in a minute.
Not yet.
Sorry.
Oh, we got to write that down.
Yeah, I'm very excited for She-Hulk. And now that we get 4 or 5 weeks with just her, A, that makes my life so much easier. B, how the fuck am I going to be able to watch 3 episodes of Andor on September 21st before I go to work? It's not possible, man. I'm going to have to take the day off to prep for a podcast that night.
So
That's
She-Hulk will be
content.
She-Hulk's going to be coming out on Wednesdays, right?
Correct.
Will Andor be doing the same?
Unfortunately, correct.
Wow. So just like Obi-Wan and Miss Marvel, we're going to have a double up now.
And here's the sad part. If it were any Marvel show other than Thor, it's taking a backseat to Star Wars. And the only reason I say that is because if it's Thor, kind of depends on where we fall. You know what I'm saying? Because I love Star Wars is my first major pop culture IP love other than Power Rangers, right? I liked DC and I kind of liked Marvel, but I saw Star Wars at 7. Game changer. Obviously over here. Big game changer for Thomas. It's not like I have a whole Star Wars podcast because all I do is listen to Star Wars books in my day-to-day life.
Nice.
So just huge Star Wars fan. So like no matter if it's male-oriented, female-oriented, what genre you're making it, Star Wars will come first and everything else in Marvel will have to follow. So I'm not a fan of them both releasing on Wednesdays. I will stand by this and I will die by this because it's really effing annoying to be able to crank out these shows because eventually when I stopped listening to podcasts because I wasn't able to watch Miss Marvel beforehand. So I'd fall off because then I'd go right into editing mode of Reckless Rebellion, right? So I'm very excited for She-Hulk to get unabashed love for 4 to 5 weeks on social media. And then Andor is going to come kick all the doors down and the rebellion's going to start.
Andor.
You know what wasn't started at a certain point in the Multiverse of Madness filming?
What's that?
That would be John Krasinski's contract. So Anson Mount, the beautiful face and inside of brains of Black Bolt, said that when asked if he shot scenes with oh my god, why am I blanking on his name? Patrick Stewart, he said no, he actually wasn't there. He was shooting Picard. That was a very interesting shoot because my role came up in the reshoots. As you can imagine, several of the actors were quite busy. Patrick was not there. Chiwetel was not there. Krasinski's contract wasn't even done. He wasn't there. We had actors playing those roles knowing they were going to either be substituting their shots or transplanting faces. I've never done anything quite like that, and I was in disbelief of how well it cut together.
Yeah, I think that if you're looking for it, there are a couple moments in that movie where you can tell that cast was never truly together. But again, only if you're actually looking for that in the film. He's right. Anson Mount does say that it was cut extremely well together. I have to give them props for that. They're so good at taking 6 individuals that all film separately and splicing it all together like they were together the whole time. It's something I will say that they've gotten a little too good at, and I wish they wouldn't rely so heavily upon because you lose a little bit of chemistry in certain moments. But
you do.
What's interesting about that is Anson Mount wasn't brought in until the reshoots, and if I'm not mistaken, was it him or was it Krasinski that was originally supposed to be Balder the Brave? It was one of the two.
Daniel Craig.
No. I mean, which one of them took the place of that character?
Oh,
I don't recall which of the two it was. I think it might have been Krasinski. Maybe that's why his contract hadn't been finalized yet, was because Daniel Craig backed out last minute due to COVID concerns. If that's not the reason why Krasinski hadn't done his part yet.
Wait a minute. It could have been Black Bolt, though.
Who was the replacement for Daniel Craig?
Yeah, because he came in during reshoots.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Yeah.
They could have always been planning to get Krasinski, but they just hadn't got the contract done yet.
Right. And I think that's the interesting part to talk about is that he doesn't mention that there was any contract issues with anyone else.
Yeah.
Even though Patrick Stewart was shooting Picard at the time, he was still able to appear in this film seemingly without issue and didn't even have to come back for the reshoots. From what he's telling us. So the fact that Krasinski's contract still wasn't finished by the time Anson Mount was doing reshoots, it just begs the question, how hard is it to figure out a contract for a single appearance in one act of one movie? Probably not that hard.
I mean, it could be. Are you trying to suggest that Jonathan Krasinski the First is going to be Reed Richards forever? Fantastic Forever?
I think that every day I wake, there is another reason to believe that John Krasinski is returning as Mr. Fantastic. If it's not the fact that in all of the post-production marketing that they're doing for this, where they show the making of the movie and they show everyone on set and they show the background of all the Illuminati, the fact that Mr. Fantastic isn't hardly even mentioned during any of that promo makes me suspicious. It makes me so suspicious that I think that maybe D23 might have something in store for us for the Fantastic Four. And these comments about John Krasinski's contract would pile onto that a little bit, because did anyone else have a hard time figuring out their Multiverse of Madness contract?
I did.
Right. It seems like Patrick Stewart didn't have a hard time with it. I don't think Anson Mount had a very tough time with it. I can guarantee that Haley Atwell didn't, because she's always game for anything Marvel, and I feel like they just have her on retainer at this point.
They've got to, you know.
Same can be said for Lashana Lynch. She keeps popping up, and I keep loving to see her. But yeah, of all people, John Krasinski, that was the one they had to iron out. I mean, he is the only one in that group that didn't have any prior experience with Marvel, if I'm not mistaken. But also, I really think that might be the start of something bigger, where they said, okay, let's appear here, but let's work that into this other contract where we're actually going to build this Fantastic Four franchise around you. And this being that first seed planted, his appearance in Multiverse of Madness, I'm starting to think has a lot more weight to it.
Okay. I see where you're leaning towards. I was like, sure, I want John Krasinski, and then I saw the movie, and I'm like, all right, I got John Krasinski as Reed Richards. I'm content. Give me somebody else.
I will say that now that we've had him, I hate to say in general that I'm for or opposed to a certain actor playing a certain role before I've actually seen them doing it. But Krasinski was my number one, my 1-1 for Mr. Fantastic. And now that I've seen him in that spot, I
can't not.
It's kind of scratched that itch where now it would make less sense if it was someone else, because every other variant looks like the MCU variant. But at the same time, we've met variants that
do they? We don't know what
all the ones we know
looks
of.
Like.
All the ones we
don't know what Charles Xavier looks like.
We know what Mordo looks like. We know what Maria Rambeau looks like. We know what Captain Carter looks like. We do know what Black Bolt looks like if it's the same one from the TV series.
That's not 616 though, big guy.
You're right. Now it's not, even though it was going to be.
It was never. That was too terrible to be considered.
You're right. Then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. wasn't either. You want to go there?
I mean, it was good enough to be considered, but it's not.
Thank you. That's why I love you. John Krasinski is Mr. Fantastic. I feel like we haven't had any. We haven't asked you guys to put anything in the comments here in a minute. I feel like this is a topic that I see on Twitter pretty much every day. But do you want John Krasinski to continue as Mr. Fantastic? Do you think that these contract negotiation comments that Anson Mount brought up, is it nothing? Is it just the fact that he was a last-minute addition? Let us know, because we're still trying to make sense of it.
Before we move on, one of the concept artists dropped a little tease of what Balder the Brave's outfit was going to look like, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
was fucking trolling, dude.
Had the
It
ravens
is-
and everything.
Had the ravens, you know what I'm saying? I don't have a phone, you have to send a raven. But all I gotta say is just block the face out and show me the damn suit already. Show me the suit
Right.
of Balder the Brave, Thor's favorite brother. I said it. So let's get to my favorite character of all villainy time, Kang the Conqueror. Daniel Destin Cretton, known for Shang-Chi, is going to be the director of Avengers, the Kang Dynasty. Holy tits. Now, in some ways, it makes total sense because the color of those rings just so sang Kang technology, right? It comes from another dimension they don't understand, another multiverse. It's not of any realm we understand or whatever. I have to go back and rewatch it, to be honest. I need to do a Phase 4 rewatch. But
it could even come from the future.
Say what? Anyways, back to the plot. I'm not going to be over dumb. Over dumb. I'm not going to be
over dumb is immediately dumb in that sentence.
Yep.
Anyway,
but he is not going to be directing Avengers Secret Wars. Now,
very interesting.
And let's go ahead and give it a shout out. Someone asked if Scott Derrickson would do it, and he replied with a Rorschach strong nope.
Yeah. Which has its own discussion hidden within it because
I don't care about that. Can't lie.
Well,
does he mean Marvel? Does he not? I don't care. We'll find out when they tell us.
He does seem a little bitter, but I don't think I can blame him. I really
still
don't.
Produced Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. He's still a main producer on that, and I do believe he's still involved in that franchise because he, if I'm not mistaken, was the one trying to bring on Sam Raimi after. Because he knew what he could get. Like, he's like, oh, yeah, this one. Anyways, we're speculating. Let's just jump to real speculation. Who do you think is on deck to be Avengers Secret Wars director?
I don't know. I think the most important question to ask is it a director we've already had? Because when we saw the last Avengers movies, okay. I mean, the first Avengers was Joss Whedon. You know, you have to start somewhere. And so they continued on with him for Avengers Age of Ultron. And then for the following two Avengers movies, they went with a directing duo who had major success with two of their Captain America movies before moving on to Infinity War and later Endgame. But they handed both of those to the Russo brothers, Avengers 3 and 4. And they said, we're going to shoot these back to back, and you're going to do both of them. Avengers 5 and 6, as of right now, are releasing within 6 months of each other. So these films will have to shoot close to one another, if not even closer than the last two Avengers movies were shot. Where they might have to do another $1 billion back-to-back summer blockbuster. Or summer project where they put $500 million into Avengers 5 and another $500 into Avengers 6. And they just spend one summer cranking it all out and spend the following 2 years releasing them. Except this time we're getting both of the movies within half of 1 year. So this almost feels, and I know you're going to disagree with this. This almost feels like Avengers 5 and Avengers 6 might not even be the same team. What are your thoughts on that?
I think last week when we were discussing if the ending of Kang Dynasty leads directly into Secret Wars, I think this is a little nod that, yeah, it will. Whatever happens at the end of the Kang Dynasty must directly influence Secret Wars. Either that or they take out Kang, and then in 2 months we find out a bunch of crap. Within the 6 months of the shows and movies releasing in between, we find out, oh, by the way, this whole time we've been in a secret war. Right. I feel like more than anything, I got a bad feeling that the Kang Dynasty will end in the Kang Dynasty. And that'll lead to something big, and maybe they straight up just introduce the next big bad. And it turns out to be a whole pull the rug from us thing. I'm really hoping that the Kang Dynasty will end and say a different Kang variant takes control and creates Marvel, the Secret War world. Not the sacred timeline, but the battle world timeline, if you will. And from there, there's no telling where we could go. And who's going to direct that? Everybody's pointing towards John Watts. Everyone wants John Watts to direct it. And if that means you're going to give me a fucking peak Spider-Man film, he's going to get the black suit and all this good stuff. Okay. Give me my favorite Spider-Man suit and please don't fuck it up. Like Spider-Man 3D.
I'm glad you brought that up because I don't even know if Spider-Man will be in those Avengers movies.
Yeah, you don't say that. It's very possible. It is very true. We don't know if he will.
It is a possibility. Yeah, it's not one we like to think of, but Spider-Man's literally still a day-to-day situation. No matter what contract they have in place, no matter what agreement that they've shook hands on.
Really fast. I wonder if they can get away with including him in television shows on Disney Plus live action without having to worry about the film rights.
I don't know.
That's a good question.
That's a great question. I mean,
because they're allowed to do animated shows.
Do you think they would have already done it if they had that opportunity?
Nope. When would they have done it? Name a show.
Well, half of the Disney Plus shows have been in New York. So, I mean, you could have at least shown them swinging by. We got Falcon and Winter Soldier. That was in New York City, right? No, wait.
The very end.
You had Hawkeye. Rockefeller Center. I mean, that lined up perfectly.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, that was the perfect opportunity to do it because it was Christmas time in Rockefeller Center. They released literally simultaneously with the Hawkeye finale and No Way Home.
But what else have we got that's in New York? Nothing.
Miss Marvel is literally right outside of New York City. I mean, Jersey City is.
That's not the same, though.
It kind of is, though. I mean,
it's not. See, in that case, then we should have been seeing Daredevil in those other shows.
Good point. He's kind of, that's a good point.
Because as Feige has said, those two are going to be the heads of the Marvel on the ground.
This is getting so derailed, but where
isn't it?
Where
just like a Secret War?
If not those places, where would he show up naturally then? Because I mean, you could make that argument for any project they do.
Daredevil. Secret Invasion. Hint for the next story.
Daredevil? I mean, if Daredevil's gonna,
we don't know what the tone of Daredevil is.
That's true.
They've not
totally
said if
be
it's
different than the
TVMA.
Netflix one. Yeah.
But not only that, if they are if those two are the key to the on the ground Marvel universe, and they've already met, and he was his fucking lawyer, Spider-Man's gonna go to him.
Okay, I like that.
And if we find out that Jennifer through Jennifer Walters, that, oh, by the way, we might find where he goes, I was the attorney for Spider-Man. And then we'll be like, wait, what?
That would
it's really so you know who Spider-Man is?
Oh, no, wow, you're right,
no,
because Matt Murdock's not going to remember Peter Parker.
No, but he'll remember Spider-Man.
Oh, wow. I like that. Okay, cool.
So
yeah, good stuff. So how did we get here? Avengers 5 and 6. So
Wars, that's how.
I'm so excited for Kang Dynasty because it's going to have Shang-Chi's director, and I freaking love Shang-Chi, and I'm so excited of what that implies for his role in the MCU.
Yeah.
But Secret Wars. John Watts is a great shout. He was originally supposed to do Fantastic Four, and he got pulled off of that, and they haven't said who's replacing him yet.
Yeah.
But we also don't know why he got pulled off of that. Maybe it is for something bigger.
Star Wars.
Well, right. We know he's doing the Star Wars. Is it a movie or series?
Series.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But is that all? Because if he does show up at
I feel like he's also going to do some Spider-Man movies.
More?
I mean, it just feels right, doesn't it?
Sort of, but also you're starting a new era for Spider-Man now.
Exactly. You get to take the same toys and characters and you get to make whole new scenarios with them, and you have an already built-in reasoning why.
What is that reasoning?
Well, because nobody remembers Peter Parker.
Got it.
So you can take Ned Leeds and turn him into a villain, right? You can make
which
him
apparently a lot of fans want. I mean, the campaign around him becoming Hobgoblin is surprisingly large.
Hey, listen, if we haven't gotten a Green Goblin, give me the motherfucking Hobgoblin. I'm all down with that. Yes.
Yeah, it'll be. I think they were teasing that pretty heavily in No Way Home, but
yeah.
He's
magic though. Don't forget,
he's very magic. Even though it was just a replacement for America Chavez, he is so magic.
Got the magic in him.
Man, yeah. You know what? Thinking of that portal scene where Ned couldn't close it would have been such a fun continuation of America Chavez struggling with portals at the end of Multiverse of Madness. Man.
Oh yeah.
What we missed out on by switching those movies up. But I like Magic.
Thanks.
Ned.
I don't even remember why
COVID
they changed. Oh, that's
and everything else. But anyways, Avengers: Secret Wars. Man, what if they pull like a huge name? What if they get like a Spielberg?
Christopher Nolan?
Christopher Nolan would be huge for something like Secret Wars. This is very off topic, but he's just released the first trailer for his movie Oppenheimer, and they barely showed anything in that trailer, but it looks beautiful. For him to get his hands on a Marvel film, an Avengers film, Secret Wars film, if I had to trust someone with it, man, Nolan would be on that list. That would be really, really awesome.
Yeah.
He knows how to mess with time. We saw Tenet, and I loved Tenet. The idea of it was amazing, and his execution was brilliant. So to see him follow up on something like the Kang Dynasty and bring his own flair to an Avengers movie would certainly be something to see.
Not only did he do Tenet, he did Interstellar.
And he did Inception.
Yep. And The Prestige.
Oh, wow. Man, he's
Could
built
you
for
imagine?
This. Oh, he's built for this, man. Oh, Christopher Nolan's
Doom. God. Christopher Nolan's Dr. Doom. Let's go.
Oh! Okay. Man. Now I want him to do the Fantastic Four movie. Fuck! Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Let's move on, really, because this is our final news story, and this is easily a 10-minute chat.
Yeah.
Secret Invasion will be Disney Plus's first ever crossover event.
Yes.
We do not know how long this series is.
We have no idea who's going to show up, except apparently a gender-swapped Union Jack, apparently.
Allegedly.
Rhodey will also be making another appearance. His second on Disney Plus, if I'm not mistaken, outside of What If.
Yes.
Was he even in What If?
I don't know. I genuinely don't remember.
I think he was in one. Yeah, he was in the Killmonger episode, but I think. But Secret Invasion is going to be the first Marvel crossover event on Disney Plus. Obviously, the first one that comes to mind is the Marvels. We talked about that last week, how we're hoping that story will directly connect, especially with the Nick Fury ties and the Monica Rambeau ties and the Skrulls and everything of that nature. But it could point to a lot more than just that.
It could.
When you see that this is going to be a crossover event?
Yeah.
I know there's stuff that comes to your mind. What are you hoping that means?
I'm hoping that means we get the Avengers without being called the Avengers.
Oh,
dude, like
sort of like a Nomad situation, like where Cap and Black Widow and Falcon were on the run.
Yeah. Kind of in that way but more along the lines of they just actually show up.
That's true. I mean, we've gone 2 years now of Phase 4.
Yeah.
The Avengers are still not around. Like it's a very broken fraction of that original team, where the most cohesiveness I think we've seen is when Wong was talking to Shang-Chi and Katie.
Oh my God, yeah, Wong.
And Bruce Banner and Captain Marvel were also in the room as holograms. Like,
yes,
we really have not gotten any follow-up on the actual Avengers team.
And we might get some in She-Hulk. Honestly,
right.
We've got an 06, right? An OG member who is in that trailer, is in that post-credit scene, I mean.
Right. He's still showing up in the movies. We saw Hawkeye, who's an
And
original
not only that,
member.
buddy, Wong. Everybody's favorite
the Wong
Sorcerer
Cinematic
Supreme.
Universe. Yeah.
The Wong Cinematic Universe, WCU, yes. So he's showing up in She-Hulk as well. And I think that
Go ahead.
I think it's pointing us to Wong being the guy who's collecting the Avengers for these. Like, I mean, again, we've got space, ground, and magic. And Wong is the one who seems to be the best with all the other people. Wong is that social butterfly that can go talk to Shang-Chi and then go talk to Jennifer Walters, right?
Right. And it's not necessarily because he wants to. It's out of it's dutiful. It's out of a necessity in a way. And I think that She-Hulk is going to reveal a lot about what Wong has had to do the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Because we see him all over the place. We see him training Abomination. We see him recruiting Shang-Chi while talking to Bruce Banner and Captain Marvel in a very similar fashion to how Black Widow was running the Avengers during the blip.
Yeah.
And exactly. So I honestly think what we're seeing is that Wong is noticing that this Avengers team is broken and essentially non-existent. And he's like, I cannot do my job as a Sorcerer Supreme if the Earth doesn't have its Avengers, because I'm too busy worrying about everything going on here. And I'm having to ignore everything that's going on up there, which is the greater, like the metaphysical, like the whole first Doctor Strange movie explains, like, we don't deal with the problems on Earth. We deal with the greater threats to the universe. And yet here Wong is having to wrangle up these Avengers to try to build this new squad. I truly think that he's at a point where he's like, the Earth is in trouble. And if they don't have this team here, we're screwed.
I want a shit ton of, I want as many actors as possible to be in Secret Invasion, excuse me, because it's the first show after Kang. It's also leading into the Marvels.
Mm-hmm.
It also is one of the biggest, most important storylines in Marvel comic history. You find out Mockingbird is a Skrull. You find out Spider-Woman Jessica Drew that you've been following for, if I'm not mistaken, it was like 1.5 years of comics, was a Skrull the whole time. You find out in various versions of it, Captain America's a Skrull. Steve Rogers is a Skrull in one of them. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of different things you could do. You could bring a Skrull in, make him look like Chris Evans, and that's just a cameo for Chris Evans, right? Turns out it was a Skrull just trying to, fake everyone out.
Yeah, man.
There's a lot that can be done with this show. And it being called a crossover event really makes you feel like that's going to be built up to. It's not just going to be every Disney Plus series is probably going to cross over, because I think we've seen a Skrull in every single one of their episodes.
Oh, really?
Is Sharon Carter a Skrull? Vibes say could be.
Mm.
Agent Deaver, Skrull. I mean, there's a lot of ways it could be done. I mean, one of the Russian bros could be Skrull, dude.
I like that idea. I do like the idea of Skrulls hiding in plain sight throughout Phase 4 and even further back, because that is the whole idea of Secret Invasion, is that they've been here all along. And what better way to make us feel that than taking some of these familiar MCU faces, whether they be new or old, and show us that was actually one of them the whole time.
In the same exact way that we find out Stillwell's involved with Hydra.
Yes, it is going to be the new Hail Hydra.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's what. Yes, I love that comparison, because since Hydra, we really haven't had that obscurity, that constant looking over your shoulder, kind of anxiety in the MCU, where it's been very cosmic, kind of. It's been an overlooming threat that's very straightforward, open, and obvious. Maybe not in how they defeat it, but at least how it presents itself. Now we're getting that cosmic threat where you have no idea where it is. The Skrulls first came to Earth in the 90s, and we have no idea how many of them stuck around. And they could have even been here before that too.
Yeah. In fact, they were here before that, because that's when we find out about the Skrulls, right? But they have that whole ship of Skrulls above the atmosphere.
That's a great point.
So they were here before.
Dr. Lawson was already working with them
I
long
am
before.
looking really fast for the breakdown of the footage of. It'll hit me in a second.
Secret Invasion.
Thank you.
Trailer from
Thank
SBCC.
You. That is correct. Damn, that was hard.
Yeah, they did show some footage from Secret Invasion at San Diego Comic-Con. It hasn't been released, but
there's also some quotes that I think is very important from Kobe Smulders. Oh, by the way, Everett Ross will be in this. Rhodes will be in this. Kobe Smulders is coming back. Rumors have it that Quake, Daisy Johnson could be showing up.
Yeah.
Talos is back. There's a lot of like really big characters coming back. So you've got Black Panther right there. You've got an Iron Man crossover. You've got all the Shields coming together again, introducing new characters. But per Kobe Smulders, this is a darker show. We're going to get deeper into the characters. We're going to see them in new ways, and it's going to be an exciting thriller. And you're never going to know who people are. Are they a Skrull? Are they human? It's going to be a bit of a guessing game. A, thank you. I love that. I'm a big fan of guessing games. B, in the footage, Fury has been off-world the entire time, ignoring Hill, and only comes back because of how dangerous the threat is. He also asks Colonel James Rhodes how well he knows his assigned protection, as the mood between them seems to get tense. There's also another line that I'm not seeing in here. Oh my God. That I don't remember what it was about, but it was kind of a reveal of Fury doing something specific. And now I just can't remember what the hell it is. But there's a lot of like built-in things that seems to be going forward, and how they're utilizing this slow build storytelling. And I think it might be all these agent crossovers, but eventually that'll lead to, oh yeah, this whole team I've been working. What if Val's a fucking Skrull, dude?
Yeah, I love that idea. That Val is building this team of supers, and it's really a Skrull trying to make a mock Avengers team to kind of follow in the footsteps of Nick Fury, if you will. The most intriguing part of this series is that we're finally going to get that real in-depth look at why Fury doesn't trust anyone. And it's going to be so cool to see where Nick Fury's intuition has really come from, because we've seen some of his experience in Captain Marvel, and we've obviously followed him throughout his journey in the MCU.
Yeah.
As he's built this Avengers initiative, but we've just been learning along the way. And so to finally get some time with Samuel L. Jackson's character, to really figure out what makes him tick, and also what sets him apart, and how he probably will be one of the only people able to tell the difference between a human and a Skrull.
Yeah.
A lot of that's going to be just his intuition. And that's one of my favorite things to study with any superhero, powered or not. It's going to be so fun. The discussion around this show is going to be great.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And you mentioned a gender bent Captain Britain, right?
Union Jack.
Union Jack. Okay. It seems that could be Olivia Colman, depending on how they decide to utilize her.
Yeah, I'm very interested in seeing that, because I have a feeling it'll be like a much more political take on the character rather than physical.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be set in the past. Like, her time as Union Jack would be in the past. Because then that way, then that way you can have Captain Britain going forward, and maybe, just maybe, is Amelia Clark a Skrull? We're not going to dive into this, because now we're just going to ask who is a Skrull and who isn't. But
right, it could be anyone.
It could be anyone. Guys, gals, and non-binary pals, we've kind of reached that point in the show where we tell you where to find us. LightsThunderAction can be found on social media all across the internet. You can get all the links at linktree.com/LightThunder. Action. You can go to Instagram at LightsThunderAction, all one word, no hyphens, no spaces. But we're living over there on the Twitter sphere at LTA Podcasting. That is ing and action verb. And of course, our Facebook right here live that you're watching now on your homes and phones. Lights Thunder Action Show is how you can find us there. JRB, where can everyone find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at JRB_direct. That's also where you can find me on Letterboxd, where I put all of my movie thoughts and reviews. We're going to be doing a lot more of those coming up, especially with this rom-com that we're going to figure out over the next week. So stick with us. And if you want to know my immediate first thoughts before we hop back on this podcast 2 weeks from today to talk about it, those thoughts will be on Letterboxd on my profile. So check it out.
Yes, you can find me on social media at TCRochesterACT on Twitter, Instagram, and that is my Linktree link as well. That is TCRochesterACT. And be on the lookout for more information on Corsicana, where we are currently trying to talk to our local theater in my area to get them potentially played, not just there, but at that entire branch owned by Southern Theatres. Going to be exciting time. Very, very exciting. That's 24 days away, the premiere of that. So that is encroaching fast. Mm-hmm. Do you have any recommendations for the audience, Senor?
Since we reviewed Sicario today, I'll give you another one from one of my favorite directors, Denis. It's called Enemy with Jake Gyllenhaal. It's an A24 film. It came out back in like 2013, I believe. I actually just checked this movie out for the first time recently, and immediately reached out to our good friend Ethan Simi, host of the 15 Minutes of Marvel podcast, because as many know, he also co-hosts another podcast, 24 Minutes of A24. I had to talk to somebody about it because it's another one of those movies that really makes you think. It doesn't spoon feed you any answers. I've already watched it a second time to try to figure some stuff out, and it's such a well-made original movie. So Enemy with Jake Gyllenhaal. That would be my recommendation.
My recommendation will be the Harley Quinn series on HBO Max. Just dropped 3 new episodes for the start of season 3 this past Thursday, and it is a lot of fun, and I really enjoy where they've gone so far. And I have a feeling it's going to go horrible by the end of season 3. So
man, you're going to get me on this DC train, dude. You're going to get me there
buddy.
Eventually.
Hey, man, we're equal opportunist nerds. We got to give everything a chance.
Equal opportunist nerds, if nothing else.
If nothing else. Harley Quinn, fantastic, hilarious, animated for adults, etc. Also, What We Do in the Shadows is fucking amazing, by the way. Last week, they had one of my favorite Star Wars references of all time. And it was so out of left field, out of the blue, just kind of dropped in the middle of an episode. And it's just calling someone a name and then then just taking that joke and running it as far as they can take it. And they took it to the perfect place. It's fantastic. Watch that show. Also for adults. Wild stuff they're doing this season, and I'm a big fan. It's literally my favorite show on television. So
nice.
I get
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. That brings us to the end of the show, and as always, there could be no show without the Iron Man variant to my right, world famous journalist John Ross Bradford, bringing a much needed eloquence and wit to this show. Thank you to Terry McIver and David Thompson for their work behind the scenes and joining us each week here. Thank you to the HWWS WebTV family for supporting us and carrying us on the network. And most importantly, thank you to our fans that join us weekly, whether you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or listening via Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, or Spotify. We appreciate you spending your time with us.
Yes, we do. Please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Drop us a comment. Leave us a review, preferably 5 stars. Only, of course, if you believe we are worthy.
Worthy. I am As always, I am TCR.
And I'm still JRB.
And thank you for joining episode 95. Holy shit. 5 more episodes and we break 100 of Lights
Can't wait.
Thunder Action. We'll see you next time.
See ya.